Okay, so we've got this really interesting collection of articles and research all about, you know, the downsides of social media. Like
Mhm.
the stuff we don't always want to think about.
Yeah, it is kind of fascinating, right? I mean, we usually talk about how great it is to connect with people and share information, but we got to understand the bad stuff too, to really use it well.
Yeah, like anything, too much of a good thing and all that, but sometimes it's so hard to resist, especially when you're scrolling and it's just perfect lives everywhere.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's that whole illusion of perfection thing, and it's like everywhere, but especially on Instagram. Everybody's just showing off the best, most perfect version of themselves and their lives.
I think we've all been there, right? You're scrolling and suddenly you feel kind of bad about yourself. Like, wait, why isn't my life like this? Even if, like, a minute ago you were totally fine.
It's just human nature to compare. But the thing with social media is it's so distorted. There was this study back in 2018 in the Journal of Social and Clinical Psychology. And they found that the more time people spent on Facebook, the more envious they felt, and the less happy they were with their own lives.
Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
It's like we're constantly bombarded with everyone else's best moments, their highlight reel, and then you look at your own life and it's just like normal.
Exactly. And it's not just the pictures and stuff either. The whole way these platforms are designed plays a big role.
Really? How so?
Well, think about dopamine hits, right? That little rush you get when, like, your phone buzzes with a notification or you see a bunch of likes on your post.
Oh, I know that feeling, yeah. It's almost like addicting, isn't it?
It kind of is, yeah. Social media is built to trigger those dopamine releases, which makes us want to keep coming back for more. And the more we use it, the better they get at figuring out what we like and showing us more of that to keep us hooked.
Wow, so it's not just a matter of, like, willpower. There's actual brain chemistry going on.
Exactly. There's actually a study from 2017 from UC San Francisco, and they found that getting likes on social media literally lights up the same reward pathways in your brain as, like, gambling or taking drugs.
Wow, that's kind of intense. Really shows how addictive these platforms can be.
For sure. Explains why it's so hard to just put your phone down. You're constantly checking, scrolling, comparing.
Totally. And then on top of all that, there's the whole issue of misinformation, which seems to just spread like wildfire on social media.
Ugh, yeah, the dark side of the internet, right? So many of these platforms, the algorithms they use, they're designed to show us stuff that's engaging, stuff that'll go viral, but they don't care if it's actually true.
So basically, the most sensational stories, the crazy headlines, even if they're totally made up, they often get way more attention than actual real news.
Yep, pretty much. And that can have some pretty serious real-world consequences, especially during, like, elections or big crises, when people are actually relying on social media to stay informed.
The research we were given mentioned this MIT study where they found that false news spreads way faster on Twitter than true news, especially when it comes to politics.
Yeah, that's concerning for sure. Really shows how important it is to be careful about what we believe and share online. We got to double check everything.
Sure. Okay, so we've got the perfection thing, the addiction thing, the misinformation thing, and then, of course, there's the whole issue of cyberbullying and online harassment.
Ugh, yeah, that's a big one. It's such a problem, especially for younger people, and it can really mess with your mental health.
The research talked about how cyberbullying feels so much worse than, regular bullying because it's like constant. It can happen anytime, anywhere, and it can follow you from platform to platform.
Exactly. It's like inescapable, it can really feel like there's no escape from it.
That's awful. It's hard enough being a teenager, but to have that kind of negativity constantly hanging over you, it's got to be so tough.
Yeah, it's definitely a huge problem. The constant attacks, the fear of being ridiculed, it can really damage your self-esteem and just make you feel terrible about yourself. And it's not even just the, like, direct attacks and stuff, it's the more subtle things too, Like constantly comparing yourself to others and feeling like you have to be perfect online. It can all really wear you down.
Yeah, you're talking about that FOMO thing, right? Fear of missing out.
Yeah, exactly. When you're always seeing these pictures of everyone having fun, traveling, being successful, you start to feel like, wait, why am I not doing that? Like you're somehow behind in life?
Ugh, yeah, I've definitely felt that. Like everyone else is living their best life and I'm just here.
Totally. And it all feeds into this pressure to only show the good stuff, Like social media becomes this highlight reel, not real life.
So it's like a double whammy. We're comparing ourselves to something that isn't even real, and we feel like we have to pretend to be that fake thing ourselves.
Exactly. And honestly, it's exhausting. It can make you feel anxious, inadequate, even depressed.
So, like, how do we break out of this cycle? How do we use social media in a way that's actually good for us, you know?
Well, step one is just being aware of it. Like, just knowing about these potential downsides can help you make better choices about how you use it.
Right, because if you don't even know what's a problem, you can't fix it.
Exactly. And once you're aware of it, you can start using some strategies to minimize the bad stuff.
Okay, cool. Like what? Give me some tips.
One of the simplest things is just limiting your screen time. Set some boundaries for yourself. Maybe only check social media at certain times of day or for a certain amount of time, and then actually stick to it.
Yeah, I know a lot of phones have those like built-in features now where you can track your usage and set time limits for specific apps.
Totally. Those are super helpful. It's like concrete data right there so you can see your habits and adjust them.
What about like being more picky about what you actually see on your feed? Like unfollowing accounts that make you feel bad or make you compare yourself?
Oh, absolutely. That's huge. Curating your feed is so powerful. Surround yourself with content that inspires you, that makes you happy, that teaches you something. Follow people who bring you joy, not stress.
Like a digital detox, but for your whole feed, getting rid of the junk and focusing on the good stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And don't underestimate the power of just taking breaks. Even a day or two off social media can do wonders for your mental health.
Like you got to reset, reconnect with yourself in the real world, and then you can come back to social media with a fresh perspective.
Totally. And remember, social media is just one part of your life, right? It's important to nurture your real-life relationships, do things you enjoy, stuff that makes you feel good.
It's all about balance. Don't let the online world take over your actual life.
Exactly. And when you do use social media, do it mindfully. Pay attention to what you're consuming, think critically about the information you see, and try to create a positive online environment for yourself and others.
Speaking of information, any tips on how to be smarter about what we believe online? Like, how to spot misinformation and avoid falling for it.
That's such an important skill these days. One thing is to always consider the source. Like, who's sharing this? What's their motivation? Are they known for being reliable?
So do your research, basically. Don't take things at face value and look for evidence to back up what they're saying.
Exactly. And see if other reputable sources are saying the same thing. If it's only on some random website or account, be skeptical.
Like if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
Yep. And if you see something that seems fishy or harmful, report it. Don't just ignore it.
So we all have a part to play in making the internet a better place, basically.
We do. It's a community, and we can each make a difference in making it more positive and trustworthy.
And we can speak up too, right? Like if we see someone being bullied online or something, we don't have to just sit there.
Absolutely not. Speaking up, calling out negativity, supporting people who are being targeted, it all matters. It can help create a culture where people are held accountable, and it encourages platforms to do something about it.
So it's not just about protecting ourselves, it's about protecting everyone and making the online world a better place.
Exactly. We can all shape the digital landscape. And by being mindful, intentional, and proactive, we can use social media for good and minimize the bad stuff.
So really is all about finding that balance, huh? Finding a way to use social media without letting it use you.
Yeah, I think that's the key. It's not about demonizing it completely. Social media can be great for connecting with people and staying informed, but we gotta be aware of the risks.
Like, we need to be just as smart about social media as we are about other things in life.
Exactly. It's like you wouldn't just believe everything you hear on the street, right? Or anything you read in some random flyer. You'd think about who's saying it, what their motivation is, and whether there's any evidence to back it up.
So we should be doing that online too, basically.
Totally. Be an active participant, not just a passive consumer.
Take control, curate your experience, think about what you're doing, and be mindful of how it's affecting you.
Yeah, all of that.
Okay, so big picture. Out of all the research we've talked about today, what's a one thing you really want our listeners to take away from this?
Honestly, I think the most important thing is that we have more power than we realize. We can choose how we use social media, what we look at, and what kind of online environment we create.
It's a tool, right?
Yeah.
And like any tool, it can be used for good or bad.
Exactly. And it's not a one-time thing either. We got to keep checking in with ourselves, making adjustments, figuring out what works best for each of us.
It's a journey, not a destination.
Well said.
Well, this has been super insightful. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of social media.
My pleasure. It's been great.
Hopefully everyone listening has learned a few things and feels a little more empowered to create a healthier and happier online experience for themselves. Thanks for listening.